Well, good morning. Guess who's back? Back again. Kelly's back. Tell a friend. Woohoo! Yep, I'm back. I'm better. Not 100%. I'm almost there. By the time I get to the bottom of this, Alani, I might be myself again. But anyway, I'm feeling much better than I have in the last few days. We're fixing to get busy, get some work done, get some productivity rolling this morning, get some things done, get ready to ring in the new year. Let's be honest, I probably won't see the new year because I'll probably be asleep. But hey, it's New Year's Eve. We can think about all the years in the past when we used to get out and cut up. So, come with me, let's go get dressed and we'll talk about Meniere's disease. And while I'm getting dressed, I thought maybe it might be best if I kind of explain some things to you about Meniere's, because I realize that it's something that most everybody does not have a clue what it is. And the foundation is a little bit dark. That's okay. We're going to make it work because I want some color today. I feel like I've just been too pale and too sickly the last few days. So we're going to fake it till we make it. And sometimes you got to fake it with the color. See if you blend it on down your neck and it's not quite so shocking. So anyway, Meniere's, it's actually pronounced Meniere's, like men, M-E-N, years, Y-E-A-R-S, but that's not how it's spelled. But that's how it's pronounced. And anyway, basically it's an inner ear disorder. It's where there's fluid collection behind your ear. So like your inner ear does not transfer fluid through your ear canal like it's supposed to. So not your ear canal, but your inner ear. It doesn't transfer it like it should. There is something in there doesn't work right. There's like little flaps inside your ear where the fluid comes in and goes out, comes in, goes out. And for whatever reason, people that are diagnosed with Meniere's, those flaps don't work properly. So for just multiple different reasons, that fluid can collect behind your inner ear. So it's basically like when you have like a sinus infection, ear infection, you know, the doctor says, oh, you got fluid behind your ears. That's what's making you so dizzy. That's what's making you so nauseous, you know, except this is just kind of like how we live on a regular. For me, I've tried so many different ways to kind of deal with it. And so they say like, take sodium out of your diet. Well, that's almost impossible because sodium is literally in everything. When I was first diagnosed 6 years ago, I actually did start with the low sodium diet first, and that made no difference, absolutely no difference. So I don't really pay attention to sodium as much. I mean, I still do because not only do I have Meniere's, but I also have chronic kidney disease, which to me, I feel like there has to be a link, but there's nothing proven that there's a link between the two. So anyway, they say, you know, monitor your sodium. Pay attention to how much sodium you take in. And these precious little dogs of mine, if I was sitting here not saying a word, they wouldn't be anywhere around. But as soon as I start talking, they have to come see what's going on. So I'm sorry about the background noise. Anyway, so the first thing they tell you to you know, pay attention to is your sodium intake, okay? So I tried that. That didn't really make any kind of a difference. The next thing that they tell you to, and this is a funny one, the next thing that they tell you to pay attention to is stress. Okay, right. Yeah, let's monitor our stress and alleviate stress living in this country in 2025. Well, actually, when I was diagnosed, it was 2020. So, okay, sure. And at the time, I had two teenagers. Well, they weren't technically teenagers anymore, but I still had two teenagers in the house. Just a lot of different reasons that you really can't monitor stress. Well, not that you can't monitor stress, but you really can't alleviate stress. I mean, you know, you can do all you can, but anyway, so, and the other thing that makes a huge difference for Meniere's patients or any vestibular disorder is the weather, the barometric pressure. Now, I can't tell you specifically what happens with the barometric pressure, whether it's, you know, when it drops or when it increases, I don't know, but I can tell you that every single time the weather changes, especially if it's a significant change, it gets me every time. So like recently, because I'm in Georgia, and so we went from our weather being literally in the 70s to all of a sudden the temperature went from being in the 70s all in the same day down to the 30s that night. And then the high was like in the 40s for the next couple days. So it's like every time something like that happens, it gets me. In the summertime, like the hot, muggy weather is really hard for me. It seems like that is when it plays the most havoc on my body specifically. So I have a lot of issues with just staying well, period. As far as like not having my Ménière. So, and I'm still not saying it correctly, Ménière. It's hard to say. Anyway, so what do we do about it, right? Well, first, before we say what can we do about it, let me explain to you some of the symptoms. So the main symptom, and obviously the one that everybody has the hardest time dealing with, is vertigo. And I'm not talking about just like a little bout of vertigo like how normal people feel it, where just like for a second you feel like you're on a roller coaster. This is like never ending. Like it can last a couple minutes. It can last, my longest flare lasted almost 2 weeks. Seriously, like you cannot, it's hard to, it's like you forget, you feel like you're floating. Like that's the best way I can describe it. For me specifically, it feels like I'm in the middle of the ocean and I'm just like floating, you know, and there, I can't touch anything. I can't feel anything. Like that's how it feels to my body. So like the other morning, whenever I was doing my makeup, the first day that it started, I was having to physically, and you can't see what I'm doing, but I'm holding on to the bottom of my chair. I have to like ground myself physically. So one of the most important things for me is like once that starts, I have to get somewhere that I can hang on, or that I feel like I'm, you know, being like enclosed, so that I feel safe, because you lose your sense of like spatial awareness, and like it's hard to explain, but it's very scary, extremely scary. In addition to vertigo, there also comes nausea, vomiting. For me, it's affected my hearing. Some people don't necessarily have the hearing loss, but it started out where I would just literally go deaf on one side. Like I could not hear anything. It feels like there's like this fullness in your ear, so it feels like you're wearing an earbud when you're not. And then of course the distortion of sounds. Some sounds that are super loud make you actually feel like you're part of that sound, if that makes any sense. Like I remember one of the very first times that it happened, I had my dog outside. We were walking and a fire truck went by with the siren on. And I don't know what happened. That siren, it was like it completely like enveloped me. And I literally hit the ground. Like I could not stay on my feet. It freaked me out so bad. And then after that happened, that was the bad flare. One of the first ones that I ever had. And I stayed like that for the next 2 weeks. Like could not get my bearings. When you walk, it almost feels like you're walking like on a moving escalator, if that makes any sense. Like the ground just seems like it's so uneven, and you're just like, one step is high, the next step is low. One step is high. It's just, I'm not describing it very well, but it's really strange, and it's very scary. And with each one of those flares, I noticed like sounds were starting to, like everything was starting to sound muffled, and I was just getting to where like nothing sounded normal anymore. It was always like I had, you know, like I was underwater or something. Like just no sound was sounding right anymore. And unfortunately for me, every time I had a flare and my hearing was affected, it was actually attacking my hearing. So now at this point, 6 years later, well, I say 6, it's been 5, a little over 5, but we're going into almost 6 years. I've lost 95% of the hearing on my left side and 52% on my right side. So how do I still function normally? I don't know, because I don't wear hearing aids. I should, like, my doctor fusses at me every time I see her because she's like, Kelly, you really need, you know, you really need to think about this because you're probably missing a lot more than you think you are. And I'm just not there yet. Plus, the fact that the type of hearing aid that they say that I need is like $8,000, and it's not covered by my insurance. So I have to just have $8,000 to drop, like, all at one time, no payment plan. And I mean, who has that? I mean, you know, I'm just doing the best I can until I can get there. So anyway, so we've talked about, well, let me go back to the hearing. So for me, I am thankful that I'm blessed enough to have a job that I can do from home. So that helps a lot. I think if I had to be out in the community, you know, on the regular, I think that I would notice a lot more of my hearing issues. On a day-to-day basis while I'm at home, I don't necessarily focus on my hearing because I've kind of set up my own environment to where I don't necessarily know that I can't hear. So, like, if I'm on a Teams meeting with my coworkers, I always turn on captions so I can read what they're saying. My TV always has the captions on. Music has been a really kind of a hard thing for me because I've always loved music. Like, that's where I always express my emotions and, you know, would feel the most was whenever I was listening to music. And unfortunately now I cannot, like, new music is pretty much out. My husband, he still loves music, and so he'll come home and he'll be like, did you hear the new song by so-and-so? I'm like, no, I haven't heard it. So he's like, oh, you gotta listen. So he'll pull it up on his phone for me to hear. And while he's pulling it up on his phone, I'll pull it up on mine so that I can read the lyrics while they're singing, because I don't understand it any other way. So that's been hard to deal with. Let me do this. I'll be right back. All right, we're done with the makeup. It's good enough, right? Anyway, so another thing that I wanted to talk about with the Ménières is, so it's very emotional. It's been an emotional journey for me because I've always been extremely independent and used to being able to take care of myself, do things for myself, and do things for others. And I have, in the last couple of years, had to really learn to depend on the people around me for support. There are times whenever, if I have a bad enough flare, my husband has to physically help me get to the bathroom so that I can throw up. I don't take showers at all hardly anymore. I mean, I will take a shower as long as I feel okay. I don't see any symptoms in sight. I will hop in the shower, like, to wash my hair or whatever, but for the most part, I'm just like getting in and out of the bathtub, because that way I can crawl if I need to, because you never know when it might hit. And there have been a couple times when it actually hit me in the shower. Like, as soon as the water hits my face, I'll just hit the floor. And I don't know what the water has to do with anything. That doesn't make sense to me. But anyway, so I never take showers alone. I always have my phone with me. I have my watch set up to dial emergency if needed. So if like my watch can detect falls. So if I fall, then it'll pop up an alert, and I have such like a certain length of time to respond, or it will go ahead and call 911. That is my greatest fear, is that I will fall one day and not be able to get myself back up. So anyway, luckily we don't have stairs in our house. It's pretty level, so I'm able to get around. I have a walking stick. I actually have a rollator. I don't like the rollator because it feels like it gets away from me, and I feel like it'll kind of drag me down as I'm walking, so I don't use the rollator very much. My dogs, I depend on my dogs a lot because they hear everything. And sometimes I'm afraid that somebody could be breaking in my house and I won't know it. Like if my husband's not here or whatever. So I do think about things like that. You know, it's just, unfortunately, that's the world we live in. So, anyway, just wanted to say, as far as like with work, yes, I still work full time. But I do have intermittent FMLA to protect my job, so that I can, because I never have enough PTO to cover all of my sickness. So there's plenty of weeks that I go with very short paychecks, very short, because I've missed that much work and I don't have enough PTO to fill in the gap. So, but I do have intermittent FMLA, so I do at least get to keep my job. That doesn't mean it's easy. And sometimes I feel like they hate me because I'm always sick and having to leave or not coming in at all. And, I've had to deal with a lot because of that. But anyway, that's just life, right? I've been told by two of my doctors, my ENT and my neurologist, that there's a chance that I will not be able to work full time. However, I'm just not accepting that yet. I'm not ready to be there yet, so I'm just going to keep getting up every single day and trying my best. Anyway, I know I've rambled on a lot this morning, but just wanted to kind of give you a little bit of awareness and kind of what it is that I'm talking about whenever I say I'm having a Meniere's flare. So this week, for example, I didn't really have a headache so much as it was like my vision was distorted. And when I say my vision's distorted, it's literally like wavy lines, squigglies, floaters. I'm not able to focus. Everything's blurry. Just misery, just pure misery. And when you work on a computer for a living, that's not a good thing. And then of course I did have vertigo this time, and it was bad. And it was like where I was having to hang on to my chair to try to keep myself from floating away, even though I know my big behind ain't gonna float nowhere. But anyway, I'm back. I'm better. We're fixing to do this thing today, and it's New Year's Eve. So I hope you get out there and have some fun tonight. Be careful. Be safe. Don't do anything stupid. And I will see you at lunchtime. I love you. Bye.